everybody, and welcome to another Hyperight Data Talks. Today, we're honored to speak with Sina Nek Akhtar, tech lead, data analytics, and ML at Google Cloud. At Google Cloud's recent Next conference, the spotlight has been on disruptive AI innovations. Both this conference and the upcoming Data Innovation Summit in Stockholm emphasize the critical role of AI in shaping the future of technology. So hello, Sina, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. And yourself?
It's good to hear that. So today we will tackle the topic of new innovations in AI, rapid experimentation. I would kick off our talk today with the topic of multimodality. So, Sena, what is multimodality and how does it supercharge AI? And can you also give us a few examples which illustrate the practical benefits of multimodality?
Sure. So if you look at like how traditional, or not traditional, but the recent wave of large language models, they've been focused on a single modality, which is text. Like you input text, you output text, and that's sort of great. Like it's democratized access to AI, and a lot of people have been able to use it for their different use cases and purposes. But if you look at a human world, we essentially process much more modalities than just text. There's we have the 5 senses, but generally, if you think about like the important ones, it's like video, being able to analyze in real time what's happening in the world, and also listening, like being able to understand or hear what people are saying to you. So those are the 2 additional modalities which are now easily accessible through AI. So in the latest release with Gemini 1.5 Pro, you can essentially pass in not only text but also video and audio files. And what this essentially means from a use case perspective is that if you're running a business where you have documents which contain like graphs and images and tables along with text, and you want to power like knowledge search and Q&A on top of these documents, you can easily do that with multimodal AI. Essentially, just throw in an entire document, and it's able to answer your question either based on images in the document or the text itself. Another aspect of this could be like in the, this is super important in like when you're in the scientific and research world, where like, these different research papers have a mixture of text and images. You're able to analyze all of that and come up with like, gaps in your knowledge or compare different items to figure out like, what did you miss and what can you focus on? So, a lot of use cases that are powered by that. And then I think for videos, like if you, there's a lot of like applications in media where you could possibly, input an entire recording and ask like for, certain highlights from that recording where certain things were mentioned. If you want to create a highlight reel for your end users, being able to power Q&A over that recording. And that's, you could say that you could just convert all of that video to text and pass that in. But then in text, we're actually going to miss the visual elements, like how somebody is acting or behaving, or whether if in the video, like there's a slideshow where there are certain elements that are covered in the slide, which might not necessarily be picked up by transcribing just the audio part of that video. So there's just some examples of use cases, but there's plenty of others that can be powered by multimodal AI.
And you mentioned Gemini. Google Gemini has just introduced expanded context windows, which process 1 million tokens or 700,000 words. So could you maybe tell us more about that?
Yeah, I think this is super important. Like if you look at how everyday users access AI, one of the gaps has been like being able to process large inputs. And if you go back to the example with documents, like usually if you're doing a certain assignment, you have multiple documents, several hundred pages each, and you want to do Q&A over it. Like traditionally, you would have to rely on like this, RAG technique, which is called, which is retrieval augmented generation, where you, based on the user's question, you have to find the right piece of the document, provide that as input to the model to get a response. And there's lots of easy ways to do RAG. So I'm not saying that it's a complex problem, but it has been simplified to some extent. But there is still like a lot of tuning and components that go into play. With large context windows, you could do away with most of it. You could basically just use RAG to find the right document to answer the question, or right pieces of document. Like it could be several documents that you need to answer a question. And you can provide it all as input into this model because of the large context window. With 700,000 words, you could have like, 10 PDFs that are 300 pages long, and it's not going to be a problem. And again, the multimodality is also important here because those PDFs could contain images and other unstructured data that the model can understand as well. So it's basically making it accessible for everyone in a way that you don't need to learn about RAG and chunking and retrieval and re-ranking and whatnot. You can basically take a document or take multiple documents and just ask a question, and Gemini 1.5 Pro would be able to provide a satisfactory response. One other thing I should mention in this context is like one of the prime applications of large language models is like customer service bots. So, being able to do Q&A on different websites and stuff. When you have large context windows, you can basically have memory on every user because you can maintain all the conversational history with that user and pass it in as input to the model and say, like, this is the history with the user, and now this is a new question. And usually that's maybe not that important when it's a transactional setting and you just need to find something and buy something, or you're just doing a Q&A and stuff like that. But at some times, like especially like if you're learning something and the chatbot has your entire history on what you know and what you don't know, like a large context window can be super useful because you can basically have entire memory of all the interactions with the user passed in as context. So that's just another example.
What about when it comes to choosing the right tool for a certain task or a job? It's either a platform or a model. So in your opinion, how do you choose the right model for a certain job or task?
Yeah, I think it's useful to sort of evaluate, like when you have a task, like it's usually easy to just pick the largest, the best model out there and then use it to run your task. And you're probably going to get satisfactory results, but then in a production environment, especially for enterprises building tools based on LLMs, you need to find a good balance between performance and price and latency. So that's why it's important to be able to have access to different types of models to be able to test out like which model can do a certain task well and use that model for your purpose. And then where a platform comes into play is not only providing you access to different types of models, whether it's open source or proprietary models, which is what we do with Vertex AI within Google Cloud, but also providing providing additional tools so you're able to build and deploy your GenAI based application successfully. So maintaining your prompts, like maintaining like your vector database, like updating the vectors there, making sure the retrieval part is working, having like hosting your functions if you're doing function calling. So there's a lot of other components that go into building a GenAI app, and that's why it's important to consider platforms that can offer you the plethora of these functionalities rather than just picking a model. Like as long as you have access to a wide variety of models, it's good to focus on the platform aspects of things. And another benefit of Vortex AI is that we provide like managed tuning services, so you can actually tune the models to provide your own like brand voice and customize it based on data that you have, so that you can take a proprietary model or an open source model and tune it, and that could be the differentiator for you, because then it's your data is your superpower in a sense, and tuning these models make these models perform way better at your use cases essentially. So that's another aspect of it that's important.
Thank you, Sina, for your answers. Also, stay tuned for a presentation on the effect of generative AI on traditional data architectures at the upcoming Data Innovation Summit. This session will be led by Miguel de Luna, who is a Group Product Manager, Data Analytics and GenAI at Google Cloud. And to everyone who is going to be attending at the Data Innovation Summit in Stockholm, we invite you to visit the Google Cloud stand. Thank you once again, Sina, for sharing your insights. And we look forward to meeting the team at the summit.
Super. Thanks a lot.